The scrapyard smelled of ozone and burnt metal, and the cub was staring again. Salera didn't look up from her plasma torch, didn't acknowledge the golden eyes watching from behind a pile of discarded hull plating. She'd noticed him 3 days ago, small for a Cranian, maybe 7 standard years, with a twisted left leg that made him drag his foot through the red dust. The other cubs trained in the distance, their war cries echoing across the compound as they practiced with obsidian claws against reinforced dummies. This one just watched her work, silent as a ghost. In 3 months, this rejected cub would bring an entire warrior culture to its knees. But first, he had to meet the human who refused to see him as broken. Salera set down her torch and turned to face him directly. The cub stiffened, his small claws digging into the dirt, ears flattening against his skull. Cranians respected directness, not pity. "Your leg doesn't bend right," she said. The cub's jaw tightened. "I know." "Can you walk?" "Yes." "Can you think?" His ears perked up, confusion flickering across his feline features. "Yes." "Then you're not broken." Salera picked up her torch again. "You're just built different. Different isn't useless." Kale returned the next taunt cycle, and the one after that. The Cranian elders had already written him off. Hail torn, the word meant torn by hail, reserved for those born imperfect in a society that worshipped perfection. His mother, a decorated hunter named Shira, couldn't even look at him during clan gatherings. She'd produced 3 other cubs, all strong, all worthy. Kale was her shame. The Cranians stood 7 feet tall on average, apex predators with corded muscle and reflexes sharp enough to snatch flying prey midair. Their obsidian claws could tear through steel. Their society had no place for weakness, no category for those who couldn't hunt or fight. Salera understood this. She was human, 5'6", soft-skinned, weak by their standards. The Treaty of Aldoris had opened Cranian space to human workers, salvagers, technicians, engineers. They fixed what broke and stayed invisible. That was the arrangement. But arrangements didn't account for a cub with too many questions. "Why do your tools have grips?" Kale asked on the 5th day, watching her calibrate a servo motor. "Human hands are weaker. We need leverage." "But the machine moves something heavy." "Efficiency." Salera held up the tiny motor. "Small force, amplified correctly, moves mountains." Kale's eyes went wide. "Could it move me?" The idea crystallized slowly, like frost forming on glass. Salera stood in her workshop, surrounded by discarded Cranian technology, battle armor designed for warriors, massive exoskeletons that amplified already formidable strength. Kale would never wear such armor. His frame couldn't support the weight. His twisted leg couldn't handle the stress distribution. But what if she built something else entirely? She worked after hours, using materials the clan had rejected. Composite plating too thin for their warriors' tastes. Servo systems deemed too delicate for combat use. Power cells considered insufficient for sustained battle. What the Cranians saw as inadequate, Salera saw as adaptive. Human engineering wasn't about overwhelming force. It was about working with limitations, about making the most of what you had. Earth's gravity was punishing, its resources limited, its people fragile. Humanity had survived by being clever, not strong. Kale became her collaborator. She taught him about hydraulic pressure, weight distribution, servo response times. He absorbed everything, his brilliant mind cataloging principles the Cranian education system had never offered him. The armor won't make you stronger, Salera explained, sketching designs on her datapad. It'll make you mobile, let you move the way your mind already fights. Kale traced the drawings with one claw. Nobody's ever built something just for me. Then it's about time someone did. 4 months later, the armor was complete. It didn't look like Cranian battle gear. No massive pauldrons or reinforced chest plates designed to absorb crushing blows. Instead, it was sleek, almost elegant. Composite panels, angled for deflection, not absorption. The exoskeleton framework wrapped around Kale's body like a second skin, custom fitted to his smaller frame. The left leg assembly was the masterpiece. Hydraulic supports ran along his twisted limb, redistributing his weight across the frame. Micro servos in every joint, programmed to amplify his movements without overwhelming his control. Ready? Salera asked, her hands steady despite her racing heart. Kale nodded. She activated the power cell. The armor hummed to life. Kale stood, really stood, straighter than he ever had. His weight settled into the hydraulic supports, the servos engaging with soft hisses. He took a step. The armor moved with him, not for him, translating his intent into fluid motion. Another step, then another. Tears streaked down Kale's furred cheeks. I feel whole. Salera knelt to his level, her throat tight. You were always whole. Now you're just equipped. He looked at her with those ancient eyes. I want to try the trials. Kale, the clan won't. I know what they'll say. His voice hardened. Let them. The testing grounds fell silent when Kale appeared. He walked through the training compound in his armor, hydraulics hissing softly with each step. The adolescent cubs froze mid-strike, their instructors bristling with immediate outrage. Elder Vonach, who oversaw the trials, stood from his observation platform. This is blasphemy, someone muttered. Lead instructor Kreth laughed, a barking, cruel sound that echoed across the grounds. Let the hail-torn try. The dummies are set to adult resistance. He gestured mockingly. Let him embarrass himself before witnesses. Kale walked to the practice ring. Salera watched from the compound entrance, her heart hammering. The first dummy lunged with programmed warrior speed. Kale slipped beneath the strike with impossible grace, his armor's servos translating thought into motion instantaneously. The dummy swung again. Kale didn't try to block or overpower it. He redirected, using the dummy's momentum against itself, striking a joint housing with surgical precision. It wasn't Cranian fighting. It was something new. He moved like water, like calculation made physical. Every strike targeted weak points. Every dodge conserved energy. When the dummy finally powered down, scored across every vulnerable joint, the training ground remained frozen in shocked silence. Elder Vonach descended slowly. Who built this? Kale stood tall. Salera, the human. The great hall of Clan Siron was carved from black stone, lit by plasma braziers that cast dancing shadows across ancestral banners. Salera stood in the center, surrounded by the Council of Claws, 7 elders who presided over matters of honor and tradition. She'd expected exile, perhaps imprisonment. Elder Vonach spoke first, his silver mane bristling. You have interfered with our culture, human. The Hailtorn are set aside for a reason. Weakness cannot be permitted too. He's not weak, Salera interrupted. Dangerous, but silence felt worse. You just never gave him the right tools. You dare, another elder began. Silence. Matriarch Syra's voice cut through the hall like a blade. The clan's leader descended from her throne. Ancient by Cranian standards, her fur was marked with scars from 100 hunts, her amber eyes sharp as plasma cutters. She circled Salera slowly, predatory, measuring. You taught the broken cub to fight. I taught him to move, Salera corrected, keeping her voice steady. He taught himself to fight. You gave him worth. He always had worth. I gave him a chance to show it. Sira's tail lashed once, a sign of deep consideration. The hall held its breath. Then the matriarch did something Salera had never seen. She lowered her head, briefly but unmistakably. Respect. Our traditions teach that strength is absolute, Syra said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. But you have shown us that strength can be adapted, built, crafted. She turned to face the assembled clan, her scarred face terrible in the brazier light. Kale was cast aside because we could not see past his form to his spirit. This human saw what we could not. She saw what we should have. Murmurs rippled through the gathered warriors. Syra's voice rose, commanding. Salera of Earth, you have given one of our own the greatest gift, the chance to prove his honor. By the old laws, you have earned blood debt. The hall erupted, voices overlapping, some outraged, others awed. Sira roared, and silence crashed down like a physical force. I name Salera Venkin, friend to Clan Siron. Her life is our life. Her enemies are our enemies. Should any raise claw against her, they raise claw against every warrior in this hall. One by one, the warriors struck their chests, the promise of protection unto death. Even Elder Vornok, after a long moment, joined them. Kale approached, still in his armor, and pressed his forehead to Salera's hand. The familial bond gesture. You saw me, he whispered, when no one else would. Word spread like wildfire across Cranian space. A human had earned blood debt from Clan Siron. The hail-torn cub who couldn't hunt had defeated adult-level combat dummies. The salvager had built armor that created an entirely new fighting style. Within weeks, Salera's workshop was flooded with requests. A warrior who'd lost an arm in battle, still sharp-minded but deemed unfit for duty. A scout who valued speed over raw strength, wanting armor that enhanced agility. Elderly Cranians who wished to remain active in clan life, but whose bodies were failing. Kale became her apprentice, learning to design and build. They worked side by side, human and Cranian, creating adaptive solutions the warrior culture had never imagined. But not everyone celebrated. The Vorkai clan, traditionalists who viewed Clan Siron's acceptance of human innovation as cultural corruption, watched with growing anger. Their war chief, Drakos, was a massive Cranian, 8 feet of scarred muscle, veteran of the border wars, decorated hunter who'd killed a razorback leviathan single-handed. He arrived at Salera's workshop on a cold morning, 50 warriors at his back. The human, he growled, his voice like grinding stone. You will come with us. Trial by tradition demands it. Matriarch Syra stepped between them, claws extended. Blood debt, Dracos. You know the law. I know corruption when I see it. Then let ritual combat decide, Dracos declared, his amber eyes burning. But I don't challenge you, Matriarch. He pointed at Kale. I challenge the Hailtorn. If he truly has worth, let him prove it against a full warrior. When he falls, the human's corruption dies with him. The gathered crowd gasped. Kale was barely adolescent, half Dracos' size. No, Salera stepped forward. This is insane. He's a child. I accept. Kale's voice cut through her protest. Kale, dash, dash. He looked at her with those ancient eyes. You taught me I wasn't broken. Time to prove you were right. The combat circle was drawn in the red dust. Dracos entered without armor, confident in his natural strength. Kale wore Salera's creation, hydraulics hissing as he took his stance. Dracos attacked like an avalanche, overwhelming, brutal, designed to crush. Kale didn't meet force with force. He slipped aside, servos responding instantaneously, letting Dracos' momentum carry him past. Strike at the knee joint. Dodge. Strike at the shoulder. Stand and fight, Dracos roared. But Kale didn't. He used everything Salera taught him. Efficiency, adaptation, conservation of energy. Dracos' attacks grew sloppier, his breathing ragged. Traditional Cranian combat assumed overwhelming strength. Kale's style assumed endurance. 15 minutes later, Dracos collapsed, exhausted. Kale stood over him, barely winded. Yield, Kale said quietly. Dracos stared up in disbelief, then slowly lowered his head. I yield. Dracos rose slowly, his massive chest heaving. The gathered crowd stood in stunned silence as the war chief approached Kale, then did something that sent shockwaves through every witness. He knelt. Strength takes many forms, Dracos said, his voice rough with exhaustion and something else. Respect. I was blind to this truth. Within days, the Vorkai clan sent an official delegation. They didn't demand Salera's removal. They requested their own human engineer. The Cranian High Council convened for the first time in a decade. After 3 days of deliberation, they issued a historic decree. Adaptive engineering was now recognized as a legitimate path for the Hailtorn. The Outcasts had a future. Salera's workshop expanded. Kale trained young Hailtorn cubs in the new fighting style. His movements fluid and confident in the armor that had changed everything. She watched him teach, pride swirling in her chest. Then the message arrived from the Galactic Concordance. Other species had heard about her work. The Zephrani, whose elderly suffered from brittle bones. The Calyx, whose mining accidents left workers disabled. The Terrians, who wanted to enhance their scouts. Salera looked at her thriving workshop, at the cubs learning to fight, at the warriors being rebuilt. She'd changed one life and sparked a cultural revolution. Humans weren't the strongest, fastest, or smartest species in the galaxy, but they had one gift no one else possessed: the stubborn refusal to accept that anyone was beyond saving. And sometimes, that was the most dangerous weapon of all. She smiled, pulled up the schematics for her next design, and got to work. The galaxy was full of people who'd been told they were broken. Time to prove them wrong.